Amelia, a young woman with a penchant for exploring the unexplained, inherited an old family cottage tucked away in the countryside. It had been years since anyone in her family had visited, and tales of strange occurrences had long been associated with the aging property. One summer evening, as twilight bathed the cottage in a warm glow, Amelia arrived, eager to unravel the mysteries surrounding her family's past. The air was thick with nostalgia as she stepped into the creaky hallway, memories of childhood summers flooding back. As night fell, Amelia settled in the living room, surrounded by the soft hum of the countryside. The fireplace crackled, casting dancing shadows on the walls. In the quiet moments, she thought she heard the distant laughter of family members long gone. Brushing it off as imagination, she delved into old family photo albums, the faces of her ancestors staring back at her. As the night deepened, a subtle change occurred. The air grew heavy, and Amelia sensed a peculiar energy in the room. From the corner of her eye, she caught glimpses of figures, fleeting and translucent, resembling her long-lost relatives. Startled, she turned to find no one there, the room returning to its eerie stillness. The phenomenon continued, each vision accompanied by a distant echo of familiar voices, her grandmother's gentle laughter, her father's reassuring tone. It was as if the very essence of her family lingered in the cottage, reaching out to her from the veil between the living and the departed. Curiosity overcoming trepidation, Amelia decided to communicate with the unseen. She lit a few candles and, with a sense of reverence, spoke aloud, inviting her ancestors to share their stories. To her amazement, the room responded with a gentle, ethereal glow, as if the spirits approved of her presence. In the flickering candlelight, the figures reappeared, more vivid than before. They moved with a spectral grace, mimicking the actions of their living counterparts. Amelia felt a mixture of awe and comfort as she witnessed her family's essence manifesting in the room. As the night unfolded, the spirits seemed to communicate through gestures and subtle movements, conveying a sense of love, regret, and unfinished stories. The mimicry of voices intensified, and Amelia found herself engaged in a conversation that transcended the boundaries of the living and the beyond. In the early hours of the morning, the room grew still once more. The figures and voices faded away, leaving Amelia in a state of wonderment. The cottage, now filled with a profound silence, seemed to hold the echoes of a shared moment between the living and the departed. Amelia, with a newfound connection to her family's spectral presence, chose to preserve the cottage as a sanctuary where the past and present converged. The nights became a time for communion with the unseen, a continuation of stories that transcended the limits of time. And so, the old family cottage, once shrouded in mystery, became a place where the bond between generations persisted, carried on through the whispers of voices and the fleeting figures that traversed the thin veil between life and the afterlife. Story 2. In the heart of a small, remote village surrounded by thick woods, there stood an ancient mansion, long abandoned and shrouded in mystery. Stories whispered of a tragic tale that befell the family who once called it home, a tale that left the mansion cursed with an eerie presence. One stormy night, Lucy, a curious young woman with a fascination for the supernatural, found herself drawn to the mansion's decaying gates. The wind howled through the twisted branches of the gnarled trees, creating an unsettling melody that seemed to beckon her forward. Lucy, armed with nothing but a dim lantern and an unrelenting curiosity, pushed the creaking gates open. The mansion loomed before her, its silhouette a stark contrast against the stormy night sky. Lucy's footsteps echoed through the grand entrance hall as she ventured deeper into the heart of the forsaken estate. The air inside was thick with the musty scent of decay, and the floor creaked beneath her weight. As Lucy explored the desolate rooms, she noticed that the walls were adorned with portraits of a once happy family. The faces in the paintings wore expressions of joy, frozen in time. The grandeur of the mansion, now fading and crumbling, hinted at a tragic demise that befell its inhabitants. In the dim light of her lantern, Lucy discovered a hidden staircase leading to the mansion's forgotten attic. The air grew colder as she ascended, and a faint whisper echoed through the narrow passage. It was a sorrowful voice, barely audible, murmuring words of regret and longing. Reaching the attic, Lucy found an old music box tucked away in a dusty corner. The haunting melody it played seemed to harmonize with the mournful whispers that lingered in the air. As Lucy wound up the music box, the room filled with a soft glow, and the shadows seemed to come alive. Suddenly, the air grew still, and the ghostly apparition of a young girl materialized before Lucy. The ghost, with tear-filled eyes, gestured towards a hidden compartment in the attic floor. As Lucy opened it, she discovered a collection of old letters, their pages stained with the passage of time. The letters revealed a tale of forbidden love, betrayal, and a tragic accident that claimed the life of the young girl's family. The ghostly figure, named Eleanor, pleaded with Lucy to share the truth of their story, to release them from the shackles of the curse that bound them to the mansion. Driven by compassion, Lucy embarked on a quest to uncover the mysteries of the past, piecing together the fragments of a tragic love story that spanned generations. As she unveiled the truth, the mansion seemed to sigh in relief, its oppressive atmosphere lifting. On the stormy night that had drawn Lucy to the mansion, a profound calm settled over the village. The once abandoned mansion now stood as a symbol of redemption. Lucy, having given voice to the long-lost spirits, left the village with a sense of fulfillment, knowing that she had played a part in breaking the chains of a curse that had haunted the mansion for far too long. Story 3. The night was unusually silent as MIA found herself alone in her family's rustic cabin nestled deep within the dense woods. Her parents had taken an unexpected trip into town, leaving her with the company of the crackling fireplace and the symphony of the nocturnal forest. MIA, an adventurous teenager, decided to make the most of the solitude by exploring the cabin's attic, a space she had always found intriguing but had never dared to venture into before. Armed with a flickering lantern, she climbed the creaky wooden stairs, each step echoing through the stillness of the cabin. The attic was filled with forgotten relics from generations past, old furniture draped in dusty sheets, antique toys, and yellowing family portraits. As MIA sifted through the artifacts, her lantern flickered ominously, casting elongated shadows that seemed to dance in the corners of the room. In the farthest corner of the attic, hidden beneath a tattered quilt, MIA discovered an ancient, leather-bound book. Its pages were yellowed with age, and the writing was in a language she couldn't decipher. Curiosity overcoming her, MIA decided to take the book downstairs and try to unravel its mysteries by the warm glow of the fireplace. As she flipped through the pages, MIA stumbled upon a peculiar incantation. Feeling a mix of trepidation and excitement, she decided to recite the words out loud. The moment the final syllable left her lips, the atmosphere in the cabin shifted. The fire roared to life, casting dancing shadows on the walls that seemed to take on a life of their own. A soft breeze whispered through the cracks in the walls, and the temperature in the room dropped. MIA felt a presence in the room, an otherworldly energy that sent shivers down her spine. The lantern's flame flickered wildly, casting eerie patterns on the floor. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the cabin, a haunting melody that seemed to come from all directions. MIA recognized the voice as that of a woman, singing a mournful tune that spoke of lost love and forgotten promises. The song resonated with a heartbreaking sadness that filled the room. Terrified but captivated, MIA followed the haunting melody as it led her back to the attic. The lantern floated ahead of her, illuminating the way with an ethereal glow. The attic, once filled with inanimate relics, now seemed alive with the spectral energy of the mysterious song. In the center of the attic, MIA saw a flickering apparition, a ghostly figure of a woman, her face etched with sorrow. The ghostly singer continued her lament, reaching out to MIA with translucent hands. MIA felt a deep connection to the spirit, a shared sense of longing and despair. Driven by an inexplicable bond, MIA decided to help the ghost find peace. Guided by the ghostly figure, she unearthed a hidden compartment in the attic containing a bundle of old letters tied with a faded ribbon. The letters told a tragic tale of unrequited love and a life cut short. As MIA gently placed the letters in the ghost's hands, the attic filled with a warm light. The ghostly figure smiled, her form dissipating like morning mist. The haunting melody faded, replaced by the rustling of leaves outside. When MIA descended from the attic, the atmosphere in the cabin had changed. The oppressive stillness was replaced by a comforting embrace. Mia's parents returned to find the daughter in a state of serene calm, the mysterious book closed on the table. Though MIA never spoke of that night, the cabin retained an air of tranquility. Occasionally, on quiet nights, the sound of a faint, melancholic melody would drift through the woods, a reminder of the connection forged between the living and the ethereal on that haunting night. Story 4. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows of the old Victorian house as Emily sat alone in the dimly lit living room. Her parents had gone away for the weekend, leaving her in charge of the creaky, aging mansion that had been in the family for generations. Despite the grandeur of the house, Emily always found it a bit eerie, especially when the shadows played tricks on her imagination. It was Saturday night, and the storm outside was intensifying. The rain pounded against the roof, creating a symphony of ominous sounds that echoed through the empty halls. Emily curled up on the sofa, trying to distract herself with a book, but the flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows on the walls, making it difficult to focus. As the clock struck midnight, a sudden power outage plunged the house into complete darkness. Emily's heart raced, and she fumbled for her phone, using its feeble glow to find a flashlight. The storm outside roared louder, drowning out any other sounds, and the house seemed to groan in protest. With flashlight in hand, Emily cautiously made her way to the basement to check the circuit breaker. The wooden stairs creaked under her weight, and the air in the narrow stairwell felt heavy and oppressive. As she descended, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Reaching the bottom, Emily surveyed the fuse box, her flashlight illuminating the rows of switches. She flipped them one by one, but the lights remained stubbornly off. Just as she was about to give up, she heard a distant whisper echoing through the darkness. It was a soft, melodic voice that sent shivers down her spine. "Emily," the voice called, barely audible over the storm. She froze, her breath catching in her throat. "Come closer." Terrified but compelled, Emily followed the disembodied voice through the labyrinthine corridors of the basement. The beam of her flashlight danced on the cold, damp walls, revealing forgotten family heirlooms covered in dusty sheets. The air grew colder with each step, and the voice became more insistent. As Emily turned a corner, she stumbled upon a forgotten chamber, hidden behind a heavy, cobweb-covered curtain. The room was dimly lit by an ancient chandelier swaying gently from the ceiling. In the center of the room stood a cracked, long-forgotten mirror. The voice urged her to approach the mirror, and against her better judgment, Emily found herself drawn to it. When she looked into the cracked glass, her reflection seemed distorted, surrounded by a faint, otherworldly glow. Suddenly, the room grew colder, and the whisper turned into an anguished cry. The mirror shattered into 1,000 pieces, and Emily felt an icy grip around her wrist. She tried to scream, but no sound escaped her lips as an ethereal figure emerged from the shattered glass. It was the ghostly apparition of a woman, her eyes filled with sorrow. The ghost spoke of a tragic tale of lost love and a family curse that bound her to the house. Emily listened in horror as the ghost pleaded for release, her words echoing through the basement. Determined to help the tormented spirit, Emily braved the storm outside to retrieve an old family heirloom, a locket buried in the backyard. As she placed the locket in the ghost's ethereal hands, a blinding light enveloped the room, and the storm outside subsided. When Emily opened her eyes, she was alone in the basement, the shattered mirror replaced by a dusty, untouched chamber. The power had returned, and the house was silent once more. With a shiver, she climbed the stairs, unsure if what she had experienced was real or a figment of her imagination. In the following days, the house felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. The once eerie atmosphere transformed into a sense of peace. Emily never spoke of that fateful night, but every now and then, when the wind howled outside, she couldn't shake the feeling that the ghostly figure lingered in the shadows, grateful for the release from a centuries-old curse. Story 5. It was a chilly winter evening, and the sun had long set, casting the small suburban neighborhood into darkness. 12-year-old Emma found herself home alone for the first time. Her parents had gone out for a rare date night, leaving her with strict instructions to stay inside and lock all the doors. Emma tried to shake off her unease as she settled into the living room to watch TV. The glow of the screen illuminated the room, creating an illusion of safety. As the clock ticked away, the house seemed to creak and settle, the usual sounds amplified in the absence of her family. Just as Emma was starting to relax, a sudden power outage plunged the house into complete darkness. She let out a gasp and fumbled for her phone, using its feeble light to navigate to the kitchen for a flashlight. The only source of illumination was the pale moonlight filtering through the curtains. Unease settled in the pit of Emma's stomach, but she attributed it to the typical fears of being alone in the dark. She quickly found a flashlight in the kitchen drawer and turned it on, banishing the shadows that clung to the corners of the room. As Emma made her way back to the living room, the floorboards groaned beneath her weight, making her heart race. She dismissed it as the house's usual nocturnal sounds, but a nagging feeling persisted. She hesitated in the doorway, peering into the inky blackness of the hallway. With each step, the darkness seemed to thicken, and Emma's flashlight revealed fleeting glimpses of shadows that danced at the edge of her vision. The silence was broken only by the soft whisper of a chilly breeze that slipped through the cracks in the windows. Attempting to shake off her growing fear, Emma forced herself to focus on the TV. However, the images on the screen seemed distorted, taking on sinister shapes that mirrored the unease in her mind. An inexplicable chill settled over the room. Just as Emma convinced herself that it was all in her imagination, the TV flickered and went out. The flashlight's beam wavered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Panicking, Emma fumbled with the remote, trying to bring the TV back to life. In the silence, she thought she heard faint whispers and the faintest sound of footsteps. Suddenly, the flashlight died, leaving Emma in total darkness. Fear gripped her as she strained to hear any sign of what lurked in the blackness. Then, she felt a cold breath on the back of her neck, and a hushed voice whispered her name. Terrified, Emma spun around, but there was no one there. She could feel eyes watching her from the shadows. Panicking, she stumbled backward, desperate to escape the invisible presence. As she fumbled for the front door, a ghostly figure materialized before her, its eyes hollow and menacing. Emma screamed and sprinted for the door, flinging it open and running into the cold night. The neighborhood was silent, and the only sound was the echo of her panicked breaths. She dared not look back until she reached a neighbor's house. When the police arrived to investigate, they found no signs of forced entry, and the house appeared undisturbed. Emma's parents returned to a shaken daughter and a house that seemed to harbor secrets in the shadows. From that night on, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that she was never truly alone, haunted by the memory of the chilling whispers and the ghostly figure that had emerged from the darkness of her home.